Well, hello, and thanks for joining us for another deep dive. My name is John, and I'm here with Pastor Shawn Scarborough. He's the lead pastor of Family Worship Center in Lakeland, Florida. Our goal for this conversation today is to start more conversations in your small groups, your relationships, and your everyday life about how to become a better disciple of Jesus. Now, normally we would be taking some key points from Pastor Shawn's Sunday message and expounding on them through this conversation, but today we're going to switch it up a bit. With it being the Christmas season, we'll be discussing all things Christmas to get us prepared for the holidays. So, Pastor Shawn, Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Now, obviously, Christmas rolls around every year. We start seeing it in the stores, sometimes in October. It seems like it's become very commercialized, and we're 2,000 plus years after the Christmas story originally happened, and so that's a lot of time.
Yep.
A lot of different cultures. We know that around the world Christmas is celebrated, and so just to start off the conversation today, I wanted to ask, what are some misconceptions of the biblical Christmas story, maybe things that have kind of gotten lost through time and culture that have maybe gotten commercialized today, or maybe just have gotten off track that we might not even realize, or kind of like, oh, wow, that's not in the Bible.
Right. You want me to ruin Christmas, John? And actually, hey, look, I just noticed all this.
Yes.
Did you decorate for it?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually stole that from Miss Vicki Kendrick.
Okay.
Who's our amazing,
I didn't know if Nathan did it. No one ever gets to see Nathan on the other side of the camera, but
she let me take it from her desk.
Okay.
Today, so
it looks great. Thank you. I feel even more Christmassy. Yeah. I don't know. I think we just add to the story so much, right? Mm-hmm. We could just be. I feel like I'm about to ruin Christmas. Why?
No,
Why are we doing this?
I think it's good for us to know.
So December 25th, more than likely, wasn't the day. I mean, I think that's fair to say. First of all, their winters are pretty rough out there, so it would have been really cold. That's one of the rainiest months in Israel and Jerusalem. So going to Bethlehem from Nazareth in that weather, more than likely there would not have been a census ordered during that time, because it would have been the hardest travel time of the year. And even though Romans get, pretty bad reputation, they would want the census to be correct. So it would have been during a good travel month. Sense. So we have that. Then there's also some really good commentary on when Elizabeth would have been pregnant with John the Baptist relative to Mary coming to see her, and when probably that cycle was. So, you have a lot of speculation on when the month was.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much agreed it's not December.
So why December 25th?
Yeah. There were certain celebrations that were already in play on the Jewish calendar that were easy to tie into. Okay. But one of the things that they feel like, and the companion Bible, Bullinger put it out years and years and years ago. Brilliant scholar, died early 1900s. But his speculation was pretty good in referring to these, it being the date where Jesus was conceived.
Okay.
So he tags it more to the Immaculate Conception, and that being the date that they held, and then eventually, rather than celebrating the day that the Spirit of God came upon Mary, it was just the day that he would have been born.
Yeah.
Speculation,
Sure.
But that's some of the ideas. And then, you have the other side that likes to, well, it's pagan this, it's pagan that.
Yeah.
I don't really see it from that perspective. Yeah. So there's that one, the date. The Star of Bethlehem, that probably wasn't the way that we see it, certainly.
Okay. How so?
Yeah, well, like the shepherds, a lot of times they'll show the star over the manger, and the shepherds use that to know where to go. There's no mention of them knowing where to go. The angels told them, go into town, this is going to be your sign. The sign wasn't look for a stable under the star. It was look for a manger with a baby in it. So their sign was different, but the wise men in the east, they saw the star, and that alerted them to the birth. And so then they would have journeyed from where they were to Jerusalem because they knew that there was the king of Israel that should have been realized in Jerusalem. And then they said, yeah, no, he would have been born in Bethlehem. And then we see where the babies were ordered to be killed years and younger. So the star probably, it was more an announcement to those in the east, not necessarily an announcement for here's where it's happening. What else? Any other thing that the inn. Was it an inn? Was it a spare room? The translation could go either way. The word could be either one. The sign was that he was lying in a manger. And it was very common for them to have feeding troughs kept in the house. I mean, their homes weren't like ours, obviously. Yeah. And so could have been that he was just born in the family room with a manger there was being kept. So there was no mention of him being put out in the barn.
Now, manger, specifically, that word specifically speaks to feeding trough. Is that right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So still not the best place to be born.
Yeah, so the point is, it's not, I don't know that I think we read words like that and we assume, well, it probably was in a barn. There wasn't room, so that means they must have been staying out in the barn. But they'd already been there for a while. And when I say a while, it could have been days, could have been weeks, but while they were in Bethlehem, not when they first got there. So they were staying somewhere. So they would have been with a family member or someone, and when the time came for her to give birth, the room they were staying in, there wasn't room to give birth in.
Right.
So would they have sent them outside to a stable? Probably not. But it is true there wasn't room. So I think we just make the story. I don't know that matters.
Okay.
I don't know
enough.
that takes our faith away.
Well, now that we've ripped Christmas apart, we'll come back to it at
I'm
the
that
end.
guy now.
We'll come back to it at the end, and then we'll piece it back together.
Yeah.
But first, I kind of want to jump into still keeping on the subject of
Yep.
the commercialization of Christmas.
Yep.
So it can be one of the most happy, exciting times of the year.
Yep.
Most wonderful time of the year, as the song puts it.
Yep.
But it can also, at least from what I've experienced, it can be one of the most chaotic times of the year.
Sure.
It can cause a lot of pressure, a lot of anxiety. And so as Christ followers, how should we guard our hearts and our minds this season?
Yeah. I think when everything starts about Christmas with worship, that's a good place. Mm-hmm. So obviously the season, what it's about is to celebrate when the Word became flesh. That's what we celebrate. And so in that, when all of our focus is on the birth of Jesus and celebrating God loving us, that's number one. So that's prime. Then for me, I'll just speak for myself, it gets really, really practical. The first thing I like to do is basically establish a budget for Christmas. And that just relieves a lot of pressure and or stress. So it's been a year, gas prices have been high, food's gone up. Is there as much left over this year as there was last year? Like whatever, here's the amount of money that is available for Christmas. And then when that reasonable number is set, then from that, my gift giving numbers begin to just be decided. So I don't pick the gift first. I pick the budget first, and then I look for gifts that fit in that budget. I don't know. That just helps me not stress out about money, because for me, money can be a huge stressor. It's just one of those things where you can. I feel like, and this might be a bad statement, but you can always have more, right? You want to be generous. You want to give more. But you have a boundary, and when you determine that boundary, it's just easier for me. So that's a big one. Next is my calendar. It gets 4 kids, so they all have a lot of things going on, recitals, events, performances, whatever. And I like to get that calendar pretty locked down. Mm-hmm. So as early as I can get it, if I know what I'm doing and I know what I have to spend, and Jesus is on top of it all, usually I can have a good season. And you can't, there are always unexpected things that pop up. But for the most part, I can deal with the unexpected if the things that can be expected are worked out early.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good wisdom. And honestly, it sounds like just what you're saying is just use wisdom.
Yeah, right.
Budgeting, creating a calendar, I think those are all really practical things, especially for families, larger families that have a lot going on. And then I love just what you said, that it's all about celebrating when the Word became flesh.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a phrase that I haven't heard used to describe Christmas a lot, but when the Word became flesh, I love that. I think that's something that I'll probably hold on to this Christmas. But that's great. So maybe do some budgeting this year. Maybe create a calendar now if you haven't, and just use wisdom.
Yeah.
And so I think that's awesome. So there's obviously, we've already talked about it a little bit. There's a lot of traditions outside of the gospel.
Yeah.
That are celebrated during Christmas.
Yep.
Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not so obvious. But is it wrong to participate in these things? Where do we draw the line as Christ's followers in participating in these things like Santa Claus, Christmas songs that aren't about Jesus, lots of Christmas movies? I know one of my wife's favorite Christmas movies, she can literally quote the entire thing, is The Grinch.
Nice.
Jim Carrey's version.
Yes.
And so I'm not promoting that movie, just to be clear. And then even decorating, all the decorations, all that stuff. So again, lots of things going on outside the gospel. Where do we find ourselves in that?
Yeah. So at home, we are very festive during Christmas. So I'll throw a couple of scriptures out and then kind of explain that. So in Titus chapter 1, it says, to he who is pure, all things are pure. Then if we go over to 1 Corinthians, when the Apostle Paul was talking specifically about communion, and they were twisting communion, he said, you have houses to eat and drink in. But yet when you're in the house of God, he gave another set of rules. I think that when we are talking about our worship and coming to the house of God and our gathering for the purpose of celebrating Jesus, I think that needs to stay very distinctly all about Jesus. I don't think we should be too inclusive of carnality in the sanctuary or even in the church. I would take that position all year long. I think that the holy things need to stay holy. So I'm pretty rigid in my thinking regarding the house of God. In your house, I think there's room for fun. And so Santa Claus, I'm okay with Santa Claus. I think we have to be careful with our kids that we don't over promote something that's not true, and then we turn around and when they're 12, oh hey, I was just kidding about Santa, or I was just kidding about Elf on the Shelf. It's not real, and then they're like, well, what else have you told me that's not real?
Absolutely.
So celebrating something is just an image of the season, candy canes, whatever. I just don't. I think that I don't have a problem with that. I personally don't have a problem with that. I know people have a lot of good times with their kids and with their family, and some of that stuff drops off as their kids get older. As long as we're responsible, I think the imagery is just fine.
Yeah.
We just have to make sure we're paying attention to. You may have a kid that's very, very literal, and they're actually believing this fun that you're presenting as reality.
Right. And
you have to probably be more careful with that kid. But the ones that they just kind of enjoy the moment. I'm not that rigid.
Right.
I'll probably get tomatoes thrown at me for that. I'm just not that rigid.
Well, and I think it's not like you kind of what you're saying is it's not a black or white answer. Like you have to really be led by the Holy Spirit in it. I mean, I know, Saint Nick was a real person.
Absolutely.
So maybe there's opportunities to kind of explore like the good, actually true things about Santa Claus. That actually Santa Claus was a real person who lived once, and talk about that. But I know for us too, and I liked what you said too about you don't want to like make a kid believe in Santa until they're 12 and say, just kidding. And
Yeah.
then what else were you kidding about?
Yeah.
Because I honestly think that's probably happened in a lot of families over the years.
Could have.
Where the gospel gets taken away, it takes away from the gospel.
Yeah.
Because it just it goes in the same category as the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, Jesus.
Yes.
It's all just fairy tales.
Yes.
And it can happen, and so I think we do have to be careful as parents. Yeah. I know we're kind of like in the heat of it right now. We only have one child right now. She's 2.5, so she's just now at that age where she's understanding everything. She's enjoying it.
Yeah.
Last year she didn't understand. Now she's really enjoying all of it, and we asked her earlier this month, hey Grace, what's Christmas about?
Right.
Santa Claus.
Yeah.
So I said, whoa. So,
Yeah. Yes.
I'm going on
Yes.
online looking for like Christmas movies of the Christmas Story for kids. I'm like, we need to slow down. She's obsessed with Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah.
She can quote the movie now.
I was a huge Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Man,
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I just thought that was the best story.
Yeah.
Never believed it to be true. Just liked the story,
Yeah. And it's imagination too.
Some things are just fiction, and we enjoy fiction throughout the year.
That's true.
We watch movies, a lot of Avenger fans. I mean, we watch things, Star Wars, whatever. We enjoy the storylines. So I don't think that freedom goes away in December.
Right.
I think that we just have to make sure the bigger job we have isn't necessarily keeping Frosty or Rudolph or Santa out of the house. The bigger job is making sure that Jesus is above everything.
Yeah.
And I think that keeps everything in perspective.
For sure. Yeah. No, that's a great point. So kind of on that subject, you mentioned Rudolph.
Yeah.
I was just curious, what is your favorite non-biblical Christmas movie and why?
Okay, so I said this in church last year, and not as my favorite. I just threw the movie out there because anytime it shows up on TV, I'm going to watch it. And it's my favorite, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are parts in there that are just terrible. I'm sure. But man, that is just, I love the eggnog scene where his brother's in that stupid fake turtleneck and he didn't get his bonus. And, it's great. That movie's hilarious.
Yeah.
Die Hard would be number 2, but.
Is Die Hard Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, right?
It's absolutely a Christmas movie.
Is it really?
Yes.
How?
Because it happened at Christmas.
Oh, okay. So any movie that happens at Christmas is a Christmas movie.
Yes, it was his ex-wife's Christmas banquet.
In that case, I have a lot of Christmas movies to catch up on. That's great. All right, National Lampoons.
Yeah.
Not necessarily endorsing, right?
Not endorsing.
All right.
Just you asked, I answered.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your honesty. So kind of moving back into the gospel, always a good thing. How does the Christmas story, before that, what is your favorite part of the gospel Christmas story and why? Why is it kind of what catches your attention or what has caught your attention that just sticks out to you personally? Yeah,
I love the interaction, that moment where the angel visits Mary. Just that whole thing where he speaks to her and then she at the very end says, "Be it unto me." Man, it's just a powerful interaction of God choosing to come through one of us. Just the story of grace behind that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. Because God, couldn't he have he made Adam, couldn't he have just created something and then just infused himself in that, couldn't he have done that? I don't know. But that he chose to come through us. Just
and even Sunday,
amazing.
Sunday you talked about how he said he was going to do that to begin with.
Yeah.
He prophesied it.
Yeah.
So once he prophesied it, then there was no
to
doubt.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So how does the Christmas story and the whole Christmas story impact our faith? in our life as Christ followers? Like, what are some key takeaways as disciples of Christ as we're meditating this month? I know you'll be preaching every Sunday. Pastor Shawn will be preaching about this story, and obviously we're gonna get to church. We'll take away a lot from that. But maybe just some kind of highlights as we're pursuing Jesus and we're again meditating on this story. What are some key takeaways for us as disciples?
So I don't want to ruin the entire series, John, right? But for me right now, prepping for last Sunday of November, when that was our first week of Christmas, and the prep time Saturday night, just praying. I just prayed a phrase during my prayer time in the sanctuary, "The King is coming." And man, it just hit me different this year. I think for me, that's my takeaway this year, is in seeing how he came. What is the application right now beyond just the remembrance? What is the right now application? And it's just like he said he would come, and he did. He's coming again. And being very, very aware of not just his coming as a baby, but his coming as the King. That, I don't know, it's very profound to me this year.
That's awesome. And that awareness, I mean, it means a lot for a lot of different reasons. I think regardless of where you're at in life right now, if you're struggling, right, or if you're hurting, or if wrong has been done to you, the King is coming.
He's coming.
And then, if you're not where you need to be,
if
you're not ready, the King is coming.
The King is coming.
So, it has so many applications. I think no matter where you're at in life, you can be affected, and it should change your perspective that he is coming again. So that's awesome.
And that was good. Like, even to that, when you said, if you're not ready, the King is coming. That's part of the Christmas story. There was no room. They weren't ready, but that's when he came. And it didn't, birth doesn't wait. And Jesus is coming. So if we're not ready, we need to get ready. And being excited, that shouldn't terrify us. That should be like, oh, I'm preparing for, like you prepare your house for a party and people are coming. It's exciting. There's a bustling in all of that. And seeing that, all of those almost allegories as we're prepping for the day, as we're prepping for a party, as we're prepping for whatever, Christmas pictures, there's excitement in that. And just letting that push into the overarching, the bigger picture. He's coming. And let's prepare for him.
When you said that, they weren't ready for him, I just got this image. Imagine being like someone that just lived in Bethlehem. And like 5 weeks later, you're like, oh, the Messiah's here. The Messiah's here. He was born in Bethlehem. Well, where was he born? You find out where he was born, and you're like, what? And imagine maybe just the kind of disappointment of, wow, I missed that, or we should have been more prepared. I think in our own lives, we need to be, I don't know what the right word is, but heaven forbid, like there be times in our lives where God is wanting to move, or God moves, and we just miss out because we weren't ready.
Absolutely.
Obviously, praise God for His grace, and that He's the God of second chances. But I just, Jesus said, even when He comes next time, it'll be like a thief in the night, right? So
much like the first time.
So expectation is important.
Amen.
Cool. Well, anything else Christmas-wise you'd like to say just about this month, or family, or whatever?
I love it. I love Christmas. Love family. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening today, and just for the special edition as well. We still hope the conversation would be a catalyst just for discipleship in your own walk with Christ. We encourage you to talk about these things with your friends, your family, and maybe even a stranger this season. So to listen to Pastor Shawn's Sunday message, you can check out our YouTube channel, fwclakeland.org. You can also get here at 9 and 11 on Sundays. You can subscribe to our social media pages. And we just want to say thank you again for joining us, and have a very Merry Christmas.